Hi, Veronica.
Hi, Steve.
Today I'm going to talk with Veronica Mark of Moscow about just how much can you learn on your own in a place where the language you're learning is not spoken. So, hello, Veronica.
Hi.
Now, we are going to speak in English because Veronica's English is amazing. Absolutely
Thank you.
amazing. And Veronica has a YouTube channel called English with Veronica, or with Veronica Mark. Which is it now? With Veronica.
With Veronica Mark. Yeah, you're right.
With Veronica Mark. Okay. And we just had a conversation in English, and her English is, I would say, flawless. Flawless. Now, would I say I would mistake her for a native speaker? Not quite, but almost. And the use of words, the way you put words together is completely native speaker. Intonation, everything. There's just very few little things that give you away. But what I find very interesting with Veronica is you have basically lived your whole life in Moscow, correct?
Yeah, in Russia. Yeah, I'm not from Moscow, so I lived in a different city until I was 17, and then I moved to Moscow. Yeah.
Okay. So we often hear people say, to learn the language really well, you have to move to the country where the language is spoken and so forth and so on. And you are living proof that that's not necessary. So how did you go about achieving such a high level of English without really leaving Russia?
Yeah. So thank you for your question. When I was in school, like in Russia, it's mandatory for every student, for every kid to start learning English at school as the first foreign language. And obviously, when I was a kid, like I was 8 years old, I didn't really care about foreign languages at all. And for me, it was just another subject that I didn't like. And I feel like the moment that I realized that I actually really enjoy English was when I was 16. It was I think I was in high school, my junior year in high school. And I was just so excited to start learning English. And first of all, I only focused on the input. I was just listening to something, reading books. First I started with some stupid books for kids because for me it was really entertaining and they were actually really interesting. And I had an English teacher. She was Russian, but she had a very good level of English and she helped me a lot. She was always motivating me and she was just amazing and I'm really grateful for her. And then there was time when I had to prepare to go to college. I had to take some tests and exams and I decided to take English as my exam because in Russia we can choose. And then that is when I really had to prepare well. But obviously when you prepare for a test, it's a little bit different than what you actually need, like to communicate with people or to just read something in English. And when I moved to Moscow, this is when I realized that I really lacked I had a lot of things that I didn't know, like culture-wise and just vocabulary. My vocabulary wasn't really as great. And one of my professors, English professors, told me that I should really look into accents and think about, because my English was already pretty good. And there was one thing that she said could be better, which is my pronunciation. Because sometimes I mixed up accents. I would say something in a British accent and then another word would be an American accent. And then my Russian accent, obviously, would be also there. And this is when I was like, okay, now I need to really think about improving my accent. And I try to focus more on the American accent. And this is when I learned all those rules of connected speech, all of those different sounds in the American English. And obviously, still every single day, I focus on the input because I just read a lot in English. I love reading in any language, really. So for me, it was just natural to start reading in English. And I really love listening to podcasts.
So I should point out, too, that so you speak English, you speak Chinese. What other languages do you speak?
French at a beginner level. Yeah.
At a beginner level.
Yeah.
And your Chinese is, how would you classify it?
Intermediate sometimes when I practice more, upper intermediate. Yeah.
Okay. And so basically, when you were very young, you weren't that interested. And then at the age of 16, you became very interested.
Yeah, very interested.
And it's interesting. A lot of parents, they want their kids to learn languages, English in many cases. And so they want to expose their kids to as much English as possible when they're 3 years old or something. They really push this early immersion. And my experience has been that if the kid is interested, that's fine. But if the kid isn't interested, it's don't push.
Yeah.
Because it's never too late. If somebody gets motivated at age 16, they will go and learn.
Yeah.
And at the other end of the spectrum, you have countries like Sweden where all of the television programs are in English. I shouldn't say they're all in English, but they're in the original version. So if it's an American television program or a British television program, all the kids are going to watch that in the original version. So Swedish kids, without even trying, they show up at school, they already have a fairly decent level in English just through all of that input. But you would not have had that because in Russia, you would not have heard so much English on television. Right?
No, definitely not.
No, so you would have to make a special effort to get that input through whatever you can find on the internet and so forth.
Yeah.
So the podcast that you listen to, is that mostly for pronunciation? Is it for vocabulary? How much opportunity did you have to use the language?
I think right now, and when I was like 16 or I don't know, 18, I primarily focused more, when I was like 16, 18, I focused more on the podcasts that actually taught English. They were, the hosts were native speakers of, for example, like American English, and they would explain some expressions in English. They would talk about the culture, and it was really interesting to me. But right now, I never listen to these podcasts anymore. I just listen to podcasts for native speakers. News, I love listening to the news sometimes. And just some interesting podcasts about anything, really. Anything I'm interested in.
Is it easier to find, I presume it's easier to find the content of interest in English than in Chinese, for example? Or not?
Yes.
Maybe there's lots in Chinese. I'm not learning Chinese right now, so I don't know. Maybe there's lots of stuff out there.
It's easier, I would say. It's easier and faster to find some new content in English than in Chinese. But if you know where to look, then it's no problem finding anything in Chinese.
So if a person wants to achieve a high level in the language without having the opportunity to travel to where the language is spoken, even though that might be a long-term goal to go to the country where the language is spoken, that there is a lot that they can do on their own, and that it's possible to achieve a very high level.
Yeah.
And what do you think are the main ingredients in order to be successful, in order to achieve a high level in a language without having the opportunity to be in the country? What would you say, if you had to name, say, 3 things that are essential in order to be successful, what would they be?
Being consistent is definitely going to be one of them. And I think it applies to everything we do in life, not just learning a language. Yeah, if you want to be good at sports, you need to be consistent too. It would be consistency, focusing on the input. And I think the third one is also going to be about not stressing too much, not worrying too much, because the thoughts we have in our head sometimes, for example, it didn't help me at all when I was younger to think that my English was not good, that I couldn't communicate with people because I would always feel scared and not ready to talk to other people. So definitely the thoughts we have, our mental state is really important too.
Well, I completely agree with you. We've got to give ourselves credit for what we achieve and not criticize ourselves, because we can always improve. But we will also continue making mistakes and having things we don't understand, and none of that matters. If we want it to be 100% comfortable, we stay in our native language.
Yeah.
Anytime we're speaking in another language, it's less comfortable, but it's more fun.
Yeah.
And I think you're proof that great things can be achieved even if you're not surrounded by the language. So thank you. I hope that your example can encourage people. And if we have, as I do have viewers who are not native speakers of English, they may want to check out your YouTube channel, English with Veronica Mark. And I'm sure they'll find many useful tips as well as lots of encouragement. So thank you very much,
Yeah,
and
thank
good
you.
luck in your
Yeah.
language learning journeys.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.